Hey guys, hope everyone's having a good day. Hope everyone's doing well. Today I'm here with Josh Madacor. It's been one of those things. It's like his time and my time are all messed up. Like I can't meet him, he can't meet me, and it's just like the time difference because he's not from the United States, but he works in cybersecurity. He did support just like me. It was bound to happen that I'm gonna have him on my channel at some point because he does a lot for the community. Besides cybersecurity, besides IT, he works at Course Careers. He's a trainer. He's a mentor. He's part of the Discord community as well, and he does a lot of free stuff. He does give out to the community for Security Plus training as well. So Josh is like an all-in-one ninja. That's just my introduction to you, to Josh. But Josh, how are you doing? Can you tell us a little bit more about you and who you are and what you do?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me. First, I'm glad we could connect. Our time zone is opposite. I think it's like 5 there, and it's like 6 a.m. here. It's like completely like opposite. So, thank you. But yeah, I'm a YouTuber, and I have like cybersecurity course and IT course, and I'm building a cyber range right now, which I didn't really even like talk about hardly. It's almost done. I have a lot of free stuff, like Kev said, a lot of free practice questions. And yeah, I don't know what to say. I live between Japan and Thailand. Highly recommend going to both of those places if you like food. But yeah.
That's awesome, man. And this is gonna be like, cause I like to interview people and ask them like personal questions. Like, what was the deciding factor for you? Like, how did you get into IT and cybersecurity and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I just like this is kind of lame answer, but I just like computer games a lot when I was young, and it led me to being on the computer all the time. And I tried to do like other stuff too. I was like, I'm gonna be a firefighter and an EMT, but I realized like I can't at that time I can't really make money doing those things. And I like computer, and I realized that you can make money doing like IT and computer science. So I was like, yeah, let me just like try to do computer science. But at that time, I didn't know what I was getting myself into with computer science because like math is all hard and stuff like this. So I switched from computer science to IT, and then I just became IT at that point. But I did get computer science degree later when I was like deep in my 30s. But yeah, I just like computers and I wanted to get money. That's like pretty much why I got into IT.
That's funny. This is just a random question for you since I play video games myself. So, are you a Steam guy? Do you use Steam? Are you
Yeah,
like Fortnite and stuff like that? Like play video games? I play Counter. I used to play Counter Strike Source. I was just wondering about the video game stuff.
yeah, yeah. I used to play CS:GO a lot, and then I people like cheating like too much in there, and I was like, this game is dumb. So I stopped playing it, but now I play pretty much exclusively Dota, like Dota 2, with one of my coworkers. We play last night. But yeah, that's pretty much all I play these days, Dota 2. But I used to play like a lot of Warcraft, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, like all those like Blizzard games. But pretty much just Dota now. Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah, I'm a Counter Strike Source, Counter Strike Global Offensive. I played Team Fortress 2, Day of Defeat. Played in League a while back for Counter Strike,
Oh wow,
1.6.
damn.
Yeah, I love video games, and I'm a big console head. So like I have like PS1, PS2, Sega Dreamcast, Nintendo
Ooh,
64, all the old school games,
nice.
GoldenEye, Mario Kart.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
love video games. So it's just like me, I'm a big video game person. And that's cool. That's cool. I love video games. I'm into video games, and I'm into anime. Like, I love was it Naruto, One Piece, One Punch Man, a
Hmm.
lot of good, great anime shows. But we just a conversation not about anime, but yeah, it's cool, man. That's a really interesting story, and I wanted to ask you more about like because the way I do these interviews typically is I like to dig more into the person to find out more about you, and because it's mostly more about you, less about me. It's more about who you are and what you've been doing and how you got into the field and everything. So, have you ever struggled with imposter syndrome? Like, have you ever had a holy shit moment where, oh man, I don't know how to do this. I need help. I can't do this. I can't figure it out. And it's like, 'cause it happens to me sometimes with certain issues that I encounter.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna say in this video, and because I always say this in every video, I don't know everything. It's physically impossible for you to know everything. So sometimes you get put in a situation where it's like, oh shit, I don't know how to fix this. So has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, I pretty much always have imposter syndrome, and I realized you should probably, well, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. You should probably always have imposter syndrome because if you do, okay, so basically, like you have imposter syndrome, and then you kind of work to kind of get used to it or get over it, and then you kind of move to the next level, and you get imposter syndrome again, and then you work to like get through that and get over it. So you kind of have to like keep doing that, and if you keep doing it, you're gonna like really like in the end you're gonna be like, oh shit, I like own a company with a bunch of employees, which is where I'm at now. Because I look at what I'm doing now sometimes, and I'm like, god damn, I am like responsible for these people's like salary, and like a lot of people are like watching me, and like when you have an audience, um you have to be like, I realize you have to be careful because whatever you say, like at least some people are going to do it. And I'm like, wow, like how did I get into this position? I better like not say anything dumb or like, dangerous. I mean, I don't because I'm just like doing IT content, but yeah, I pretty much always have imposter syndrome all the way from like my first tech jobs to my like high-ish profile tech jobs to doing YouTube. It's just like always imposter syndrome. So I think I think it's good. Like I read the book like The Way of the Superior Man a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
that book talks about living at your edge, and it's applicable to women too. The book is just called Way of Superior Man, but it talks about living at your edge, and you should try to always live at your edge because if you're able to do that, you're just gonna like be able to grow. So if you have imposter syndrome, it means you care about what you're doing, and it means if you try, you're probably going to do a good job. So it's just something you have to kind of work through. You can't like succumb to it and be like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna quit my job." You just have to like do your best.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat as you. When I got my first job, my all the jobs I have worked, I have been challenged in every single job that I have worked. It's just not, I didn't be like, oh, this was easy. It has not been easy for me with every job, but sometimes with when it comes to work, you get humbled really fast with certain things that you don't know how to fix. It's just like it gives you a kick in the butt. It's like, oh man, I didn't know you could do that to fix this problem. And then also sometimes when it comes to learning, like the more you know, the less you know.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to say that reminds me. When you first start working, your worry is like, oh, what if a problem comes that I can't fix? But you kind of get used to the fact that a lot of those problems are going to come that you can't fix. But the skill comes with like kind of just figuring out how to fix it because like everything is resolvable one way or another. It might not be like the ideal way, but everything is resolvable, and you kind of get used to like not knowing how to fix stuff because like the main thing is just figuring it out. Like, is that kind of like your experience as things get more difficult?
Yeah, yeah. With me is if I don't know something, the way my brain works is I like to try to replicate the problem and see if I could create the problem myself. For the dear life of me, if I still can't replicate the problem, I literally are gonna be using Google, maybe knowledge based articles, maybe ask a colleague for help. Just try to reverse engineer the problem. That's how my brain works. There's no other way my brain works. My brain just works happens to work that way. Like I said, like I would escalate the problem if I don't know the solution. Because at the end of the day, like you may not know how to fix it. Someone else may know how to fix it. So
Yeah, because sometimes if we're talking about like help desk and like these type of things, sometimes the problem is like outside of your scope. Like you don't have the ability to see the root cause, depending on like the system that you're working in. Like if you have like XYZ tool, but you need like ABC tool to even like see the issue, like sometimes you can't even do anything, and then you have to like escalate it, I guess.
yeah, no, exactly. I 100% agree with you. And that's another thing with people. Sometimes people are a little stubborn and a little hard headed when it comes to admitting that they don't know how to fix the problem or they don't know when to ask for help. So like part of being in IT is like being able to admit that you need help when you need help. Don't just try to band-aid it. I seen people that I work with myself where they try to band-aid a problem and then it becomes way worse than what it is. So like that's my experience. I work with people that you could have just asked me for help. I'm here to help you. Like, ask me for help, man. Don't be afraid to ask me for help. And then that problem becomes a bigger problem. It's like when you have a hole in the boat and then the hole gets bigger. So it's like that. Don't do that. If you be humble and ask for help when you can. So, which is my
Yeah.
opinion. So,
You can
um,
save a lot of time too, and learn a lot. It's good to like try to fix it at least a bit, but sometimes you can like save a lot of time by asking. for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Another question for you, like, it's gonna be super random. I teach, you teach too. So, like, how was it for you being on YouTube and teaching stuff for the first time? How comfortable were you with this? I know no one's comfortable speaking in a camera. Then you hear your own voice, and then you have people commenting on your comment on your video saying, "Oh, you sound funny," or "This video sucks," or "You could have been better with this or that." How's that journey been for you being on YouTube and just making videos and just teaching stuff?
It's harder than it looks. People are like, YouTubers, it's not a real job. It's quite difficult because there's a lot to deal with. There's like of course, like scripting, production quality, like editing, and like thumbnail hook, blah blah blah. There's like too much stuff to deal with. Not to mention like your content has to be good. For me, I think I recognize that the ability to take criticism is like a really like it's basically like superpower. Because if a lot most people, if you criticize them, they'll be like they'll just get mad, you know, and be like "f you," and they won't like listen to it. But even if the person is like a jerk, for lack of a better word, when they're criticizing you, there's at least something you can take out of it. Like you can ignore the bad words they said and try to focus on the core message. Like maybe your audio is like not good, or maybe you're rambling too much. So it's really important to be able to take criticism and not take stuff personally, because people just like they'll just like comment stuff and they're having a bad day and they'll just say something like really mean, and like sometimes I'll read it and I'll be like that's not even like useful. Of course it like, you know, hurt my feelings at least like 0.1%. Like nobody wants to read like bad stuff about them, you know. So it does like affect you at least like a little bit, but yeah, it's difficult. You just have to like do your best, and it really makes your teaching quality like really high, because you have to like keep the attention of your audience, and you just have to care about so much stuff. And then when you watch like a normal college professor or like a normal person trying to give a presentation, I can like criticize it a lot because I'm like, you're rambling like too much and you're like saying like really not useful information. Because the class, they have the luxury of like the class not like leaving after 30% because they were like too boring, you know.
Hmm.
So it just puts a lot of stuff in perspective, as you probably know, right? You have a lot to worry about when you're like developing content. It's like a lot.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you with everything you just said. I made my videos back started in 2016. Then I made a video, and I get comments like, "Oh, this video sucks," or "You're not good at this," or I immediately stopped watching your video after 5 minutes because you were explaining this thing, and you clicked too many times for the same thing over and over again. So it's like, okay, I can't watch you. So,
Yeah.
and that's why I tell everyone, like, sometimes like video content creation is super duper hard, very hard. It's not easy, and you're gonna have people criticize you no matter what. And also when you make videos too, it's not easy because like you may be super boring. You don't know. Maybe your voice is boring, or the person doesn't like how you talk. Or the person you're not gonna be everyone's cup of tea. That's just the reality of making videos. So like some people are just not gonna like you, and you're gonna have to accept that. This is
Yeah.
I'm just being realistic. So
There will be some people who do like you, like this guy's like me, and then they'll watch you and they'll like you for whatever
yeah.
reason. Some people like watching you. Thanks for that.
But I was gonna ask you, like, you work for Course Careers, and I know you're an instructor there. You're on Discord. I'm on their Discord too. And I guess what got you to do IT support or make a course for them? Why did you do that? Like, why did you create a course for Course Careers, and why are you there? And I'm just wondering.
I didn't know that course careers existed. First of all, I got introduced to them by Troy, or sorry, by Shane Hummus. He introduced me to Troy, and I was actually like making a course already, like out of necessity for my audience, because like too many people like asking kind of the same stuff. So I was like, man, I should just make a course because there's like obvious demand for it. So I was probably like halfway done with my course, and then Shane introduced me to Troy, and then he was like, "I heard you're making an IT course." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Do you want to partner?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then we just like partnered. It was like really fast. I didn't know like, I didn't know like what to ask and like all those stuff because I never like partnered with someone for this before, and I thought it would be like a good learning opportunity. So we just like flushed out like a contract, and I just agreed to work with him, and that's how it ended up.
Guys, like being in Course Careers and then training the students and everything. What are like the most common questions you get asked, or what are the most common things you get booked for when you do booking calls with students?
Usually people get stuck in certain parts of the lab, like because there's a lot of technical labs, particularly a difficult one where we set up like a ticketing system from scratch inside of a virtual machine in Azure, and there's like a lot of steps in that, and the students, people like get stuck in there sometimes. So they usually ask questions about this or like how to set something up. We have like an Active Directory lab too, and that one's a bit complicated because like Active Directory is just like a big database to manage users and permissions, but pretty much every workplace uses almost. So we have a lab where we set that up, and it's a bit complicated. So there'll be like a lot of technical questions around that lab, but I try to make the course make as much sense as possible to like reduce the questions, but there still is a lot of questions around, especially those two areas.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, and I'm also part of course career as well as anyone watching this. So yeah, I'll leave a link below if you want to look at the courses. We do have a course for tech sales and one for IT support. So you guys may want to look at that. And yeah, Josh is good at teaching stuff too. Like I do watch some of your videos, Josh. Like I've been following you for a while. I just been like things people don't know is there's a lot of content creators that I follow, and you guys don't believe it or not. Like just like cybersecurity is small, the YouTube content creation or YouTubers are very like the circle is very small on YouTube. Like everyone knows each other. That's the thing. Like we literally know each other, and it's like you never know who's watching from YouTube, from the YouTube side, from the I guess from the content creation side. We all know each other, so it's like that's why I said it was only a matter of time before I was going to get him on my channel. It was going to happen at some point. But
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you another question, actually, specifically for you. If you were to start all over again, like I guess just like a video game, you already gained the experience and the points and everything. So like you're already at level 90, right? You're a level 90 because you have all the experience now that you have now because you've been in IT for a super duper long time, right? For someone that's brand new, what would be your advice for that person that is trying to get into IT?
So if let's see, if I were starting over brand new from scratch, gosh, I so and I just wanted to get a job as fast as possible. Is that like the goal?
For IT support, let's just go with IT support.
Yeah. So I would kind of focus on learning stuff that's common everywhere, ubiquitous everywhere. So for example, like everywhere is going to have like some kind of ticketing system. Like everywhere is probably going to use Active Directory. Like everywhere is going to like obviously have some kind of computer, right? So of course I would get those like really basic computing skills, like how to actually like use a computer and like navigate windows and stuff, which most young people like kind of have. And then I would probably focus on like figuring out like learning a ticketing system and like how to use it and like how to create tickets and like SLA, like service level agreement, those like basic stuff that you're going to use everywhere. And then I would probably do some kind of like Active Directory lab and like learn about identity management and permissions and these type of things. And then I would learn like really basics of networking because that's like you only have to know basically what the hiring manager expects you to know, and then be able to show some kind of passion, like if you have like portfolio or something. So I would make a portfolio with projects on it that I would be able to talk about, and I would probably like pick some lab where I could learn like ticketing system or Active Directory and do those labs like 10 times each or more, because like the more you practice something, it becomes like really easy for you to articulate it during the interview, and the more you do something, your intuition kind of like grows on it. So I just like those three things, like networking basics, ticketing system, Active Directory, and just learn those really really well. And then of course all those soft skills, like polish myself, practice interviewing based off the stuff that I studied, and then just start applying to jobs. Because when you interview, you don't need to know like all this stuff like inside of A plus, like you know the red wire is like 5 volts, like these stuff, like you don't really need to know it because the hiring manager doesn't know that either. You don't have to know stuff that the people interviewing you don't don't know, because you won't have a chance to like convey it because they won't know what you're talking about. So if you like focus really hard on that core and you have something to show for it, it's going to look impressive. And as somebody who hires people, like that's like enough to impress me to like hire them. Because if you can do this, if they're like a normal smart person, they're like, okay, they have a solid understanding of like ticketing systems, basic computing, Active Directory. They should be able to learn the nuances of our environment. And then as long as you're polished, wearing appropriate clothes, you should be like good to go. That's
Yeah.
how I think.
No, that makes perfect sense. With my advice typically for someone new is always gonna be mastering the fundamentals when you're brand new to IT. Because if you have no experience, you don't know what an operating system is, you don't know what hardware is, you don't know how networking works. You like certain things that are covered for A plus stuff, like certain things you're gonna need to know if you're gonna go into a job, and they're probably gonna ask you about, oh, how do you find out like you how do you find out the IP address of this computer and do IP config or whatever IF
Mm,
config in Linux, right? So
mm,
learning the fundamentals and just building a home lab, because I always preach home labs in all my videos. You watch any of my videos, I always talk about home labs because it shows something you're working on. It shows you have the willingness to learn. It also shows that you're willing to learn the skills needed for a job. So like one thing is having a certification, and another thing is having a actual skill that you know how to do. That you could say, I know how to do this. So because I know how to do this, I check mark one of the requirements that you have as a check mark box on your job summary. I know how to do Dual. I know how to do Active Directory. I know how to do Office 365. So all
mm,
those check marks are very important for a hiring manager because then it's like they don't really have to train you as much because you already know how to do it. So it's like, okay, it's a no brainer. I'm gonna hire this guy because he knows how to do it or she knows how to do it. So what you talked about makes total sense to me. Um, Even the students that I train, same thing. I have them level up their skills, build a home lab, and you could add those things on your resume. So when you have that resume, tailor it to the skills that you have and what you're learning, and those things are very important. And another thing that we didn't talk about, which is part of getting into a job, is being active on social media, like on LinkedIn. So like if you have a LinkedIn profile, you could be super active on LinkedIn, and people tell me that, oh, I have nothing to post on LinkedIn. I'm like, that's not necessarily true. Everyone has something to post on LinkedIn, whether you're doing course careers, you're building a home lab, or you're studying a certification. All that stuff, you can make a post about it on LinkedIn. You're actually engaging with other people, and build your LinkedIn profile. And I always tell everyone, like, nobody knows what you're doing if you don't say anything, right? So
yeah.
you gotta be an advocate of yourself a little bit. What do you think about that, of being active on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I agree. It's good to do that because you can expand your network and stuff, and you can literally post like anything. You can make if you're studying for like A plus or something, you can make a poll, a post with like a question, and then the answers are a poll, like which wire is 5 volts, red, green, not this, but you know what I'm saying. Like I see
Mhm.
those like a lot. You can post like anything. Um, yeah, just be careful you don't end up on like LinkedIn lunatics.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the thing with LinkedIn is like, and I tell everyone, and people look at me like I'm crazy because I got three of my jobs just being on LinkedIn. So like I didn't apply at all. Like literally, I was just on LinkedIn. Like, oh, we're hiring. You want to do an interview? Yes. Okay, let's do an interview. Like that's literally how I got my job. There's no secret formula or anything. This isn't the Krabby Patty formula, but so you know what I mean. But it's like in some cases, like the resume has to be very, very tailored, like very targeted to IT support. Because Josh, I know you get this all the time. Because I do coaching calls like crazy, just like you, and you're like, oh, I can't get a job in IT, and then you look at their resume and it has nothing IT related on the resume.
Yeah.
Or they say, "Oh, I can't get a job in IT," and then you ask them, "How many jobs have you applied to?" I only applied to two jobs.
Damn.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
you ever get calls like that, where like, "Oh, the resume is not tailored." Like, I'm asking your thought process, like, you know.
Yeah, so I came up with this thing. It's called Employability Framework, and I can kind of explain it. So basically, like when you want to get a job in anywhere really, but in IT in our case, like it just comes down to like getting an interview and then passing an interview. That's all you really have to care about. And then in order to get an interview, there's certain things that you should do that help with it, and then to pass an interview, there's also certain things you should do. So to get an interview, you have to like have a quality resume and quality applications and a good volume of it too. So if you have like quality times volume, the more of these two things you have, the more likely it is you're going to get an interview sooner rather than later. And then if you might be like, well, what makes a quality resume or a quality application? And it comes down to like basically like these things, the stuff components that are on your resume, like written communication, like it has to be like really consistent, even like formatted consistently, and The grammar needs to be consistent, like the tenses and everything. It can't be like all random and messed up. Some kind of education section for the ATS. Like you don't have to have like I graduated like a bachelor's degree. It can be like education section, and then you can have like edX or like MITx computer science like 101 or something. It's better than like having nothing at all, right? And then certification section, like you don't have to have certifications, but you could say something like, if you graduated course careers, you could put like course careers IT professional, or you could put like CompTIA A plus in progress like 3 months from now, so the ATS will pick it up. There should be some kind of portfolio link and some kind of experience that you can make for yourself. Like maybe you did some like projects or something like this, or you could do something like where you could put some kind of experience working on something. So if you have a nice squared away formatted resume, I can give like Kevtech a link to one. I don't know if you have your own resume that you give to people, but if you have that quality thing and then high volume, like you said, you can't just apply to like 1 or 2 jobs. It doesn't make sense, right? You'll eventually get an interview for sure. This is like the easy part because you can just make a good resume in one day, right? Even if it's like full of lies, right? It's easy to make a good resume. But more importantly is like the passing the interview part. So passing interview comes from like self-presentation. Like at least you have to be like kind of polished, appropriate to the job you're doing. Like no pajamas and like underwear, obviously, to your interview. And then your technical ability kind of feeds into your interview skill. Like the thing I was talking about before, like the more you do a lab, if you do a lab like 10, 20 times, like I was learning, it's called SCCM back in the day. I practiced that like more than 20 times and I got like so good at it. It was like too easy for me to talk about during the interview. And I knew like the hiring manager like maybe knew this much, and then maybe I like knew this much. And it was enough to like really impress them. So if you do like pick a couple of good labs or make some good labs and do them many times, it's going to help you articulate yourself really well in the interview. And of course, there's like those soft skills and like not being arrogant, those nuance. Just be nice as you can and then articulate yourself well. And then that will help you to pass the interview. And then, of course, social network is kind of like the wild card to this. Like Kev was saying, you can just get an interview for free if you have social network, or you can pass the interview for free, or you can get a job for free if you have social network. But social network is like something that takes time to build up. You can't just, it's hard to like practice it, especially for like me because I'm introverted, but it's good to have. And you can build your social network passively by like, if you get a job, just be as nice as you can, and then the next job, just be as nice as you can and build your network that way. Or you could do in conjunction with like LinkedIn, like Kev was saying, like do posts and interact with the community. But this is social network is pretty much the play. But if you don't have it, this framework is like a really good thing to follow to systematically get a job sooner rather than later, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man, that's a lot. That's very well explained.
Oh, thanks.
That's cool. We're gonna go back to interviews and jobs. Don't come off as a douchebag. Please don't do that. People come in and interview and come as a douchebag. I seen it. This has happened to me. I interview people too all the time, and it's just like you're not gonna get the job if you're a douchebag. No one's gonna want you on their team. Just being realistic. So it's just part of the team building exercises and team bonding. Like you hire someone and you don't want them being toxic to the rest of the employees, and it just falls over to everyone and messes up the whole team, so don't be a douche.
Yeah, I will say, like, especially for entry level help desk, if you have like even a little bit of technical aptitude and you're really coachable and nice and personable, that probably go farther than your technical component, because it's not difficult to train somebody up on entry level IT, but it's impossible to train someone to be like personable. So it goes a long way if you're nice, I would say.
I agree with you 100%. Like the person that got a job, IT support job recently, actually, like I did training with them and they were like willing to learn, like ON, like David Goggins ON, and like just, you'll know me son, let's get it done, right? So, and I'm like, all right, let's get it done. And then they did the training, with me, and they got a job. And the reason they got the job was not because of their tech skills. They got the job because of their personality. So like the hiring manager's like, yeah, I like this guy. He took the time to learn ServiceNow because we were going over ticketing systems, and this specific job was asking for ServiceNow experience with ticketing systems. So I had him create a developer account, which he did, and then he created an account. He started messing with the tickets. He started automating some tasks. And then he brought that experience with him when he went for a job interview, and the hiring manager was very impressed by him. But it was not. It was impressed more by his personality because it shows the willingness to learn, and also the way he presented himself was very like empathetic and very like he had a lot of experience with customer service before, but he didn't know how to resonate it to IT because he comes from a background in customer service, working in restaurant. So like I'm like that still counts as soft skills. You could still add that and have a conversation about that when you're going for a job interview. And he didn't know that because I have a customer service experience too. I've been in restaurant for 12 years, and I was in the same scenario as him. So I was like, okay, yeah, you just talk about your customer service, how you deal with a tough customer, and then bring that conversation to the job interview, which he did. And he gave a real life example of that and how he handled the situation, which tells me and also tells the hiring manager that he really cares about the customers. He has empathy. He's willing to work with customers. He's willing to handle their tickets, and he's not going to get mad at anyone. So that is very important when you go into an IT support job. This is my personal opinion. So, yeah,
I agree, 100%.
So yeah, I was gonna ask you questions on certifications. Like, how important are certifications getting into IT? And I hate asking this question because people say, "Oh, you must have A plus, you must have this, you must have that." You know, like, what's your thought on that?
I think it's they're helpful if you want to. It's helpful if you want to break in, and it's helpful if you want to move up, but it's not necessary. So, for example, maybe you can like put the graphic after the fact, but if you think about the employability framework, there's like different areas like certification, like portfolio, blah blah blah. If you don't have like one of those areas, if you have like really strong in another area, it's gonna like make up for it, right? Because if somebody is like super technical and they have a really good portfolio and they're really personable and they have a good social network, like obviously they don't even need like any kind of education or certification because they have all this other stuff. You can kind of think about it like, this is not exactly true, but think about the employability framework and maybe each box is worth 10 points, but you only need 50 points to get an entry-level IT job. So if you're missing some boxes, as long as you have 50 points with like other areas, it's possible to like get hired. So if you're like brand new and you have enough time and money, like sure, like you can go ahead and get a certification. But I don't necessarily think you have to go out and spend like $400 or $500 on CompTIA A plus or something, when you could have spent a lot of energy like building out your portfolio or like doing something else. So it helps, and you can also put like whatever certification in progress in the next like 3 months or something like this. But it's just one of the things to add to your stats, but it's not necessary, and you can make up for it in other areas. Like it's happened like so many times. What do you think?
That makes sense. Like for me, my advice changes depending on how much money you have and how financial you are as a person. So like my advice is always changing depending on what you like. If you have money and you can do the A plus, go do it. If you don't do it. There are other ways to get into IT. There's several ways to get into IT, not just that way. And I always had this conversation. Because someone interviewed me and asked me the same question, and I said like, if you were to get 5, 6 people, 7, 8, 10 people on how they got into IT, they're all going to give you different answers. Because at the end of the day, everyone got into IT their own way. Everyone has their own unique story. Some of them may have a certification, some of them may have a degree. Some of them may not have neither a degree or a cert. They just happen to know someone. Like, oh, I'll just refer you, come into this job. Or someone just happened to be networking in a social event for cybersecurity, and oh yeah, we're hiring right now. You want to come and work for us? So like I said, like getting into IT, it's different for everyone. So it's like there's so many ways to get into IT. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you another question. Like, what are like the common salaries have you seen for getting into like IT support or help desk or desktop support? Like, and I'm gonna ask you, it's a two-way question because I want to know what they're paying for here where I live at, like here in the United States, but also around where you live at. Have you worked with people in Thailand or Japan that are in IT, or you haven't had to deal with someone?
I interviewed one dude. He's like a security engineer in Kobe. I don't think he told me how much he made, but it was like a decent amount. It's like comparable to like a respectable salary in the coastal city in the U.S. I don't remember exactly how much it was though, but for sure Thailand, it's not going to be a lot because it's like a third or like the fourth, like the living expense there is like quite cheap. Japan, it's a bit more normal. It's less than the U.S., I would say, but entry level like IT, like in the coastal cities, I imagine it's around like $20 to $25 an hour in like those coastal cities, like New York and like Seattle and stuff. That's like an entry level IT. And then when you go more toward the middle of the US, depending on if the job is remote, it gets like less and less. So I do notice like a lot of people on the landlocked states, they'll start around like $20 an hour inside of no state is coming like Arkansas or something like this. You can probably get like $18 to $20 an hour or something, but it gets like more expensive as you get like more toward the coastal area. And you have to like realize working 20 or $25 an hour doing help desk is different than $20 to $25 an hour like doing like working in a warehouse or something like this. Because like your environment is different, your coworkers are different, the quality of life is different, the level of micromanagement over you is like different. So like in my opinion, like $20 to $25 an hour not being micromanaged is obviously worth more than like $20 to $25 an hour where you're micromanaged and your boss is like super annoying, because you tend to have like less micromanagement and your QOL, like your quality of life, tends to be a bit better when you're doing like even like entry level IT. People kind of just like it's a bit more chill, I guess, is a good thing.
Me being in restaurants, I've been in restaurant for 12 years, and honestly, like I did help desk for a while, and I work with customers all the time, and you know, you have customers that scream and yell at you, but it's like it is nothing compared to working in restaurant. And I'm gonna say it now because I've been in restaurant for a really long time. I worked at Chipotle, Qdoba, lots of fast food, and yeah, someone screaming and yelling at me and throwing a fit because they don't want to pay guacamole, and then want to throw something at me for food, then actually being in a help desk environment where like, oh, you're having this issue, the computer's messed up, the guy's frustrated, and oh, okay, I'll fix it for you real quick. I got you. So it's like totally different stress levels. The stress level changes though when you do help desk for a financial firm. So like if you're working for JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, a lot of big hedge funds with the executive team, that's where it gets a little more stressful. Like but help desk pays more for those jobs. You're basically paying more for help desk because they know you're gonna deal with the lions. You know, like you gotta be like Dr. Phil, and they're like Gordon Ramsays of IT. So you got to have patience with the executive team, because it's happened to me. I worked IT support for executives, and you know, it's a bad day when you set up a VC room, a video room, a conference room, you're in the office and it doesn't work, and you have 20 people staring at you, and they're like, why is it not working, Kevin? I'm like, I don't know, this was working yesterday. And then, you know, later on you find out that someone made a DNS change on the back end, and then that's why the room's not working anymore. So then they have to move into a different room. So like sometimes you have situations where you work with executives and they get upset because you gotta understand that time is money for them. So I'm not sure, Josh, if you ever worked with IT support with executives, but I have. And with their stuff, is like they either works, it doesn't work, and they lose money because they're losing a lot of money because they're trading. They use Bloomberg, use the third-party tools to trade, and they get really irate. They get frustrated because because they're trading, and it's like, well, it's just not working, you know. So you gotta have patience when you're working in IT support.
Yeah, I worked in a bank, and my team was scared of the executives. It's funny.
Yeah, how bad was it?
I don't know. They're weird. I have a theory about people who are in the C-suite. You're either there because you worked really hard and you're probably stressed all the time and having a hard time, or you're a sociopath. So it's like one of these two things, and you can expect like I don't want to take what I'm saying with a massive grain of salt, but like a lot of people in C-suite are like sociopath, and there's something wrong with them. So you just have to like be prepared for that. Not everyone will have like the experience of having to like work with like the COO of a company or something like this, but they're like you can tell a lot of the time they're like kind of a different type of person. They're not like always nice, but the only thing you can do is just like do your best. You're working help desk, like what can you do?
Yeah, that was my experience too. Like literally, I just keep my head low and I just bow my head and I'm sorry. So I worked for a Japanese company, So I work for a
Oh,
Japanese
really?
company, and the culture is different, and their stuff has to work. So it's like I just bow my head and just say sorry, and we'll figure it out. And if I was screaming and yelling at me, I don't let it affect me as much. It's like I'm used to it. It's like
Yeah.
whatever. So, but yeah, that's just my experience. But last question for you, Josh. What are some final thoughts, or what is your advice for someone watching today's video of me interviewing you and asking you these questions about breaking into IT and stuff like that? What are your final thoughts?
If you want to work in IT, just watch this video and like watch it again, and then I will give some advice. The thing that prevents most people from succeeding in anything, whether it's like business or IT, is like lack of execution. Because people do like a lot of thinking and like watching stuff, and they're like, I made progress by watching this, but like you didn't actually like do anything. So you need to like execute, and like the more you do, it sounds weird, but like the more you do, the more you can do in the future, or the more you'll be able to do, and like the more you do, the more like windows you're going to notice around you of different stuff that you can learn, and it's just going to help you. So action, it's good to like watch this, but you should definitely like take some kind of action, like study something. If you don't even know where to start, there's like a lot of videos like Kevtech's channel, my channel, we talk about how to get into IT. I'm sure we give like a lot of overlapping advice. Just like take some of that and just execute it, like do something, because the more you do, the more you're going to be able to do in the future. And like if you do a little bit every day, you're just gonna like progress towards your goal. So like look at that employability framework and think about like where you're weak on there, and then how to like satisfy the different areas, and then just kind of like go hard on that. Don't burn out, but spend like an hour a day or something working toward your goal, and you're going to like get there eventually. But just don't not do anything. That's like the bad thing. So just do something.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I always say it's better to try than not try at all. That's just how I look at it from my perspective. But
Yeah, you got take
Josh, thank
action.
you, man. Thank you for
Yeah,
talking to me. Appreciate it.
yeah, appreciate it. It was a pleasure. We'll have to do like another collab in the future, or like rope in, see if we can get like Unix guy and Sandra and Mad Hat, and we do like a big giant collab or something. I don't know.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
And Nicole,
Yeah,
cool.
that'd be pretty cool. I got Nicole too. Yeah, that'd be cool, man. I have no more questions for you. So, yeah, that was
Yeah,
cool.
thank you so much.